Hello, and welcome to our print production webcast. I'm Allison Hall, and I'll be your moderator today. The topic of today's webcast is the new era of marketing and technology. We'll be discussing marketing on-demand technology and how it can benefit your business. You'll also gain an understanding for how an enterprise can manage all of their marketing assets, automate marketing processes, and reduce operational costs. We have just a few quick items to go over before we begin. We will hear from today's presenter, and then we'll open the floor to your questions. To participate in the Q&A portion of our webcast presentation, all you have to do is type your question into the Ask a Question text area below the presentation window, and then click the Submit button. You may submit the questions at any time during the webcast. We will address as many questions as time permits after our presenters' prepared remarks. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to the icons at the bottom of your screen, including our social media widgets. Using these widgets, you can connect with Ricoh on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Please feel free to continue the dialogue and address any additional questions on our Facebook page. If you experience any technical problems, please visit our webcast help guide by clicking on the help link below the slides window. Now let's get started. It is my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, Forrest Layton, Vice President of Strategic Alliances with PTI Marketing Technologies.
Hi, thank you very much, Allison. I appreciate it. We appreciate the time here today. So we're looking forward to a good, hopefully some exciting content for you, talking a little bit about what's happening in the marketing space these days. Quite exciting. We'll push through a little bit here and just give you a brief sense of what we're going to chat on today, just a little bit on where, I work for PTI. My job is I 100% support the Ricoh endeavors on a worldwide basis. We'll talk a little bit about why that's important. And then really we'll go into the core of the content, which is about what's going on in the marketing space today, how has the landscape changed, what's happening with content and analytics. We'll talk about a few customer solutions. We'll do a brief kind of product overview of the Marcom Central product as well, just to give some point of reference to some of this that we're talking about. So that being said, let's move into where the PTI and Ricoh relationship lives. So, last year there was a strategic investment made by Ricoh in PTI, which is my organization, that actually they've taken an ownership stake in the company. What's on the slide there, as you can see, is just some of the comments that were made through the many press releases that went out. It's a very, I won't read you the comments, but at the end of the day, the importance is the fact that Ricoh thought it was important enough to really move into the solution space where they're making these types of investments. It really represents a strong step forward, and we're very excited to be a part of it and hopefully bring some really good solutions to the market that incorporate both hardware and software offering. Now let's talk a little bit about what's happening in marketing today. Very exciting times. This slide, when you look at the marketing landscape, the marketing and media ecosystem has arrived at an evolutionary threshold. Numerous developments have brought the industry to its transition point. Many more advertising platforms exist, and marketers are insisting on greater precision in targeting and accounting for their ad spend. So what does that all mean? Things are changing. There's tons of options out there from the hardware side, from the software side, but marketing is really becoming a more of effective entity and more accountable for driving real ROI. If you look back, even a couple of years ago, the CMO average life expectancy was 18 months. Now that's up to 36 months because they're actually able to drive a true ROI and measure the return on the investment. Marketing is really becoming more of a science than an art, and that's really where we're heading. So now if we look at the convergence of media, so how does this impact everything that's going on? So if you look on the left side, you have your paid media, which could be your traditional advertising. On the right side could be your website where all of your content lives. And, of course, the earned media is, the customer word of mouth type of exchanges that are going on. So now it's all converging. So how do we become more effective and how do we actually serve up the content in a way that makes sense for where the buyer is? The whole buying behavior has changed dramatically. The old days was, the sales guy came and knocked on the door or telemarketed for, to get a sales lead and start a sales cycle. Those days are behind us. Now buyers are making much more of their decisions online. They're outrunning us in many cases. So we have to figure out the way to serve up content in the right manner. So this is a concept called agile marketing. So how do we become more agile to serving up content based on where they are in the buying process? So the spending shift comes right along with that. So now what we're seeing, this is a major shift, which is why this part of the market is becoming so hot. And you look at this, 1995, majority of enterprise software dollars were focused on back office functions, while the sales and marketing functions were largely ignored or served by smaller point solution vendors. The market cap is $17 billion. I mean, this is an enormous space right now. And you look at what's the front end to this, what's driving it. The CRM systems, the accounting systems, that's become the new front end for marketing. So amazing shift in the market. This slide, by design, is a bit of a mess. But this is what's going on today, and there's thousands of these companies out there. And, for the folks that need to make decisions on what's the right solution for their organization, that's not an easy thing to kind of sort through all of this. So what do we have in here? You got everything from email marketing to digital asset management, to big data, to all of it, the CRM. It's all over the place. Marketing resource management, which is where my company fits in. There's over 10,000 software companies. Only 500 of them are $10 million or more in revenue. And think about, there's much less than that are even profitable. I mean, I'm fortunate that I work for an organization that's on the good side of that. But so what happens is there's a lot of clutter out there and there's a lot of confusion. And we're also seeing a ton of consolidation. And that, I think, we'll continue to see. We saw Microsoft buy Marketing Pilot. We saw ExactTarget with Peridot. We saw Eloqua that IPO'd last year, and then Oracle bought them. We're going to continue to see this change. So for the buyers and for the folks that need to figure this out, it becomes challenging. And this statement I like because it kind of backs up everything we just talked about. By 2017, CMOs will spend more on IT than their counterpart CIOs. That's amazing. So all the dollars that were in IT are now moving into the marketing organization. Okay, so a couple more fun facts for you. Growth of marketing IT budget. 2011, B2B and B2C marketing budgets as a percentage of revenue were almost 3 times as high as IT budgets. That's amazing. I mean, it's growing at such an astounding rate. But you get the idea here. Okay, CMOs and CIOs alike must recognize that technology and marketing are now inextricably tied, and the future success depends on the creation of a totally new kind of cross-functional organization. So now if you're trying to drive this more of an operation, it's a different type of organization that's required to do that. So it's not only that you're spending more money, it's the talent pool, it's everything that kind of comes around it that's going to have a significant impact on it. So where's the spending going? I don't think any of this is really a surprise. The red side of this chart is the decrease in spending. The blue side is the increase. They're investing in digital. Companies are investing in mobile, PR, events. The direct mail is kind of right under that top 4, but I'd still put that as an important piece of the equation. I think when it's used properly and done in the right way, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, I think it has an important play. But the bottom piece, look at they're falling out. This is the general pieces. They're not, it's not measurable. Shotgun versus the rifle approach, personalized versus static. I mean, these are the things that kind of drive to where we're going in a market. You can't do things the old way. Okay, so it's all about relevancy, and I think that sets that up very nicely for, how are we making things relevant for our customers, for our prospects? Where does the relevancy come into play? So delivering relevant content, right? So, how do you get through the clutter? Data is still king. And companies are struggling with this. I mean, this is a major thing that's going on right now. We've been collecting information in the CRM system for years, but is it up to date? How is it being utilized? Do we really understand it? When customers hit us on the website or in any other way, how are we serving up the content they need at the most critical point when they're engaging with us so that we can help to drive the sales process forward? Such a critical point we are right now with this. So traditional marketing, the John Wanamaker quote, half of my advertising budget is wasted. I just don't know which half. So, this is the old way of doing things. So, look, lots of companies are spending dollars on that. I guess you get some brand recognition, but, we look at this as kind of old ways of doing things. So how do we launch a product? We put billboards up in Times Square. We put a bunch of direct mail out in, and then we blast them with emails everywhere. So, and if it's just static stuff, it's not going to get through. The one argument I have to make to this is the Bed Bath & Beyond coupons. I have a ton of them at my desk downstairs that my wife likes to keep. So I think that, you look at some direct mail, it still works, but it's got to be relevant, And email, actually, I just heard a survey, we were at a conference a week ago, where they talked about email as really being the preferred way to be communicated with. But think about your inbox, how many of these garbage emails you get every day. It's got to be relevant. It's got to be something that grabs you and has some relevance to what you're doing. Okay, well, and consumers want it, right? 7 in 10 consumers say they like custom content to tell us of their specific interests. 6 in 10 say that after reading a custom publication, they feel like they know more and feel better about the company. That's a really important point. It's about what am I creating and how am I creating it in a way that makes sense for that audience. Okay, so this was a study that was done by PODI, which is the Print on Demand Initiative, and the Direct Marketing Association, and it really just measured the difference between if I just sent a flat, static piece, nothing about you, just the same piece to everybody, that's what the gray bar is showing. It's showing the response rates, right, in all different sections of the industry, education, financial, manufacturing, etc. So as you can see, the red bar, which is personalized, that's really where we're showing what it does when I put some relevance in here. So if I personalize the piece, I make it relevant based on what your behavior is, based on how you've engaged with us, based on your previous buying habits, and we send you up something that's personalized, the response is going to be significantly greater. So relevant direct marketing, right? So direct marketing isn't just about print. It's about email. It's about print. It's about SMS. It's what are the pieces in there, and then how do we pull them all together? So here we're showing this could be a print piece that's driving somebody to a microsite. There could be an SMS that's tied to it. There could be an email campaign that personalizes using image personalization. You could see the names on the metals. So again, it's serving up some content. This has got and hopefully there's some relevance in here, right, based on my previous criteria or things that they know about me. They're sending me it. You don't want to get too personal because I think, you've got to be careful you don't cross the line there. But of course you want to make it relevant. So this is, I really like this slide because I think this kind of shows some of the cutting edge things that are going on today. The top left is my favorite. So this is showing a website, and within that website is actually the front page of my homepage of PTI's corporate website. So it actually knows it. I hit their site. They don't know me, but they were able to pull in by my information my website. So I'm entering their site for the first time, and I see my homepage. That's pretty interesting. Definitely makes it relevant. Look at radio. You have things like Pandora. Pandora knows based on, the users and the type of music or types of selections they're making, they can serve up relevant ads. So in other words, if based on their data, if I'm a hard rocker and I like listening to that kind of music, I might get ads for Monster drinks because hard rockers like Monster drinks. I don't know, something like that. And then retargeting. So if you look at, Netflix is doing a lot of the same retargeting ads online. The PTI website, you hit our site, and then you go to many other sites, all of a sudden you'll see all these PTI things begin to pop up. It's a relatively inexpensive way to do it, and people come up and be like, wow, you guys are everywhere. It's just using some good technology to get there. Okay, now we've seen the fun stuff. How do we quantify it? What are the metrics? What are the ways that we can measure this and show the return? So data has transformed marketing into a more quantitative discipline. This new accountability is helping marketing evolve from an expense to a measurable driver of revenue. It's making experimentation and optimization through A/B and multivariate testing a part of everyday marketing life. So you got to measure, and we got to make sure that you're doing it in a way that makes sense and that you're really driving the sales cycle is what is happening in the marketing side today. So what are we measuring, right? So it's a little bit of everything, And metrics is an interesting one, and you can get caught up for a long time in them, but you just got to make sure you're measuring the things that make sense and that really drive the key business initiatives that you have. This is showing kind of what the typical things are companies are measuring today, everything from web traffic, social media sharing, direct sales, all of these types of things. So are they all important? It's really on a company-by-company basis, which makes the most sense. Okay, dashboards. Dashboards is a new thing. Everyone has a dashboard for everything, right? But if you have 3 or 4 different technologies that are launched across your organization and you're getting 3 or 4 different dashboards that you're getting fed, you got to make sense of it all. And this is where I feel like is probably the next big step for where we're going in the marketing automation space of how we tie this all together. So I could be scoring leads in one, how hot or cold they are. There's systems like Eloqua and Marketo and some of the other big ones that are out there that do this. I could be serving up direct marketing or asset management content, and there's other dashboards that will measure my effectiveness in doing that. So it's just a matter of how these all get tied together. So it's a really important point when you start to look at these technologies to make sure there's some synergy there. Okay. So the key, at the end of the day, it's about solving your critical business problems. That's really what this all is. I mean, you don't want to get too caught up in looking at every single technology. You just want to make sure that you have the ones that are right for the business problems you're facing today. So where do you start? You understand the technology landscape. What are the needs? And what do you have in place today? I think that's a really important point. The confusion has become amazing out there. I had a story a month or two ago. One of our sales guys was out at like a helicopter manufacturer, and we were called in, and he wasn't sure the whole detail of what the the RFP was going to be about and all those things. And he's sitting across the table. We have what we would call a marketing resource management system, and he's sitting across the table from somebody who has a digital asset management system, and then another one that's a commercial printer. So they're all looking at each other like, what are you doing here? So it's a matter of understanding what it is you're trying to drive and what's the actual technology to get there. And then a lot is about leveraging your own. We even did that within PTI. We looked inside. We were looking for a better system for how we could support our customers and how we could support customer service and a knowledge base and all of these things. We were shopping around, getting all these quotes. Somebody said, hey, did you look at Salesforce? They have Service Cloud, and that's what we ended up implementing. We already were a Salesforce customer. It wasn't very expensive. We were leveraging the cloud capability. Again, very easy, save time and money, and learning curve was relatively small. Now, what happens if you make the wrong decision? I don't have to go into detail on this. I think you can see it. It's well beyond the cost of whatever the investment was. It's the training of the people. It's hiring the resources. It's all those things, and it's a loss of credibility. We've seen this in franchise organizations. If the mothership makes a bad decision, they have a lot of egg on their face, and it's hard to kind of recover from those kind of things. Okay, and so what about the staff makeup? So this chart kind of shows the average staff makeup. This is kind of very traditional view of what a marketing organization looks like from traditional product and field marketing and all those things. What we're seeing is a major shift here, and my intent is not to spend a lot of time going through each item, but at least just give you a sense of what's happening. So where are those staff changes? And I'll start at the bottom. These two are two of the ones I hear about more and more every day are marketing ops, marketing operations, and sales enablement. These are the new disciplines that are being introduced that are absolutely required to be able to drive marketing the way we've been talking about today. And of course, solution marketing, social marketing, website, campaign management. I mean, I think many of those have existed for a little while, but certainly the marketing ops space is becoming really hot. And then where are folks spending money? There's, again, multiple choices. What we're seeing is lead management. We're definitely seeing marketing taking a much stronger role in driving leads further into the pipeline, where it's not that we created a lead and the sales guys ran and closed the deal. It's that they're driving a lot of the activity so that by the time it's handed off to sales, it's deep into the sales cycle, which actually could be a huge cost savings for a company and also be a lot more effective. Digital marketing, website infrastructure, external social media monitoring, of course, very, very important. So you have limited resources. It's the less with more adage. Budgets have been cut, and then how do you become effective and be able to drive all these things? So no easy task. So that kind of brings to a close portion of the presentation to kind of give you a sense of what's happening in the market and where it's going. What I'd like to transition to now is really talking a little bit about the Marcom Central product, which really fits in that marketing resource management space, which is certainly a key importance of this. You saw those new sales enablement jobs. A lot of those folks are looking at these types of technologies. So I'll give you a brief kind of overview on this, and then we can wrap up in a couple of minutes and then have some Q&A as well. So, Marcom Central, and I think it's an important point, even if it's not a product that you're interested in, at least in understanding, what's happening in this space today. So, this sentence above where it says streamlines marketing operations by allowing end users located anywhere in the world to gain access to a web-based marketing portal for the ordering, customization, production, and management of marketing assets, templates, and finished products. So this is really the core of what it does. So look at any organization and the kinds of content that organization has. Right? The marketing group is creating all of this stuff. Sales guys are always complaining they can't get it. I was at a marketing operations conference a couple weeks ago. Actually, PTI hosted the conference, and there was a gentleman from Adobe, and he talked about, I don't know if it's Adobe, it might have been Adobe or Eloquent, one of those guys, so I don't want to quote anybody incorrectly, but they talked about the fact that they did a survey, and it was I think it was 40%, sales guys said 40% of their time is taking marketing content and repurposing it for their own good. So that's an amazing amount of time for doing that. So what we're showing around this kind of first inside loop is all the different kinds of content, whether it's digital assets, it could be print or non-print related assets, brochures, your collateral, your emails, whatever it might be that you want to have content for. So any organization, work for a number of very large companies, it's always very difficult to sometimes get it, and then of course to customize it was almost impossible. And then the people around the outside, field marketers, partners, sales, agents, franchises, these are all the folks that have to have access to the content. What our system does, it gives you a very good way to organize it. They can all have access to it. They can customize it, and they can make it right for their needs. So again, this agile marketing thing, how do I serve up the right content at the right time? This certainly comes into play there. From an enterprise client standpoint, we work with a number of them, everyone from Subway, the largest franchise in the world, State Street Financial, Mutual of Omaha, it goes on and on and on. But really, when you start to look at it, the problems become very similar across the organization. Subway is how do I deliver, advertising, marketing on a global level, but then give that local franchisee that made the investment the ability to go in and create relevant content for themselves, like the guy in Wall Street that wants to create bag stuffers when he goes to deliver all his catered lunch. So that could be a good example. Tyson could represent any manufacturing of anything in the world. Tyson happens to make chickens. So if I'm a local supermarket and I want to run a special in the weekly circular on Tyson chicken, I can go, they're utilizing Marcom Central to go in and pull down the right images, the right logos, right? It's about brand control, very important, especially for somebody like a Tyson, pull down the right verbiage and everything that I can put into the ad, and it's there. And those are all digital assets. Mutual of Omaha, any financial or healthcare, making sure what you're putting out is correct. So the salesperson that's in New York or the salesperson that's in Dallas, Texas, they may have two different types of regulatory compliance that they have to hit in the information they're disclosing, the types of products, the T's and C's around them, all of that. We help them to manage that. That's just a couple of quick examples of that. Okay, for controlling the brand, like with the Tyson example, all of these companies, for anyone out there, your brand is your gold. You've built it. You want to make sure it's controlled. Having sales guys, running around creating stuff or pulling down the things they think works, we call rogue marketing. We certainly can control. And they want to customize it, right? I want to serve up the content that makes sense for them at the right time. I want to be able to reduce total costs, centralizing and consolidating. So again, the distribution and fulfillment of those assets, how are they being delivered? Is there a streamlined process to do that? We can certainly help with that. Controlling users, that's a very strong piece. Who has access to which content, workflows, budgets, the whole thing. Personalization, again, with that customization, am I serving up that relevant content that the users are looking for? And I want to automate the marketing process, right? I want to make it easier. I have less resources, and I need to do that. And overall, I want to decrease my time to market. Okay, so I'm not going to read you the bullets, but I would like to show you at least some of the ideas of the sites. It's very flexible. You can take on the look and feel of anything. We talked about Tyson. This is the example. This is actually their site for Marcom Central. You can see this is where all of the distributors and anyone that needs to interact with Tyson can go to get the information they need. This is all battery. You can see very different look and feel to the site. This is MC Squared. Again, different types of products. State Street Financial. This is actually being deployed on a worldwide basis now. And it started with the problem on how they organize all the content around the events that they were running. Mutual of Omaha. We mentioned them before. It's all about corporate compliance or legal or regulatory compliance. Health South. And again, look, the branding is very different on all these. The look and feel is very different. Nordstrom's has been a big customer of ours for a long time and very successful. And I think you get the general idea. You have a lot of flexibility in that. Helps you manage the things that are important to you and make sense. And, of course, integrating. So we showed you that big mess of a chart that had all these different types of companies doing all these different types of things. How does it all tie together? That's the one thing that we spend a lot of time and focus on, is making sure we can tie in well to your back-end systems and, of course, create relevancy. This is showing emails. You can see the personalization. You can put your name on a cow, which I think that's important in any marketing campaign. No, I'm being serious now, so no. But honestly speaking, we certainly have a lot of flexibility there. And then basic, even just image personalization to put a little bit of that. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions at this point, it would be a great time to ask them, and I very much appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Forrest, for such a great presentation. We do have a couple of questions that have come in. The first one is, do you have any advice on how a smaller organization can get started without a huge budget to spend?
Well, I think that's a really good question, Allison. Thanks. So, and I think that's a hard one to answer also, because there's so many choices to make. But I think especially in the smaller organizations, a lot of this can become really overwhelming really quickly. So I think it's about identifying what are the critical objectives for the organization. What are the main things that are going to drive the organization? Is it about putting qualified leads in the pipeline? Is it about managing our assets better? Is it about, what are those key things? Identify those first, make a good plan around it, and then you can start to look at the technology. There's a wide range of them out there. So there's no cookie-cutter answer, but it's certainly, once you get those objectives lined up, it should be easy to take the first step. And, my only advice is don't bite off more than you can chew to start. Pick the main ones, focus on those, get good at those, and then you can expand out.
Okay, great. Okay, our next question is, can you give your thoughts on what are the key metrics that should be measured by marketing?
That's a great one, and that's a tough one for a lot of companies to come to terms with, as far as what are the key things I need to measure. I mentioned that marketing operations summit, and we had the gentleman that ran marketing ops for Adobe, and it took them I want to say 5 to 7 years to get the system together that he presented to us. And the things they measured was everything. It could have been from marketing qualified leads to sales qualified leads to how much revenue they were driving and all those. And if you looked at it, there was probably 30 or 40 things they were measuring. But it took them, 7 years to get there to do that. So I'd say you got to pick the key things. So if the thing is I want to put qualified leads in the pipeline and I want to be able to measure my return on that, let's figure out a way to put a closed-loop reporting mechanism in place to do that. So, I think it's just picking the top ones that, meet those objectives that we talked about for the previous question.
Okay. And we have time for one more question. And so the last question is, for a global organization with multiple brands and users across the world, is there an easy way to segment the content by user or brand?
Yeah, and that's one actually we run into a lot on the PTI side with the Marcom Central product. It's one of the things that, a lot of those big logos that we put up on the screen, they're doing today. It's how am I managing my brand? And for like a multinational company where they have multiple brands, they want to be able to manage the users. So, within the Marcom Central product, we have very simple ways to manage the users. They only have access to certain content. They can log in. If it's just for specific brands, it would just serve them up content for those brands. So that's something that we work with every day, and that's, I think, a really important point. But something, our product does, I'm sure there's others that do it as well, but it's something that is kind of a core strength of the PTI product family.
Okay, great. Well, I think that wraps up the Q&A portion of today's webinar. I'd just like to thank everybody for attending today's webcast, and especially to our presenter, Forrest Layton. And shortly after the live event, we'll be sending an email reminder to access this presentation on demand. So that concludes today's Ricoh webcast. Thanks to all of you for participating.
Thank you very much, Alison.